Most people would struggle to name a destination that has captured the imagination of travelers more consistently over the past 2 decades than Bali. The island has become synonymous with tropical escapes, luxury villas, beautiful beaches, lush rice terraces, vibrant cafes, and a lifestyle that seems to blend relaxation and adventure in equal measure. For millions of visitors, Bali remains one of the most desirable destinations in Southeast Asia and continues appearing near the top of countless travel wish lists. That is why many people are surprised to discover that a growing number of travelers are choosing to avoid Bali in 2026, even while the island remains enormously popular around the world. At first glance, this may seem difficult to understand because Bali still possesses many of the qualities that made it famous in the first place. Visitors can enjoy stunning sunsets, impressive temples, beautiful landscapes, welcoming hospitality, and a culture unlike anywhere else in the world. New resorts continue opening, tourism investment remains strong, and international flights connect Bali to an increasing number of destinations across the globe. The island still offers countless opportunities for memorable travel experiences. Yet tourism is often shaped as much by expectations as by reality. Travelers do not simply compare destinations against one another, they compare destinations against the image they carry in their minds before they arrive. In Bali's case, that image has become incredibly powerful thanks to years of travel documentaries, social media posts, influencer content, and glowing recommendations from previous visitors. The challenge is that expectations have risen just as rapidly as the island's popularity. One of the most common reasons some travelers are reconsidering Bali involves crowding. Locations that once felt relatively peaceful can now attract large numbers of visitors throughout much of the year, particularly in the island's most famous tourism districts. Popular cafes, scenic viewpoints, beach clubs, and social media hotspots often attract visitors from around the world who are following remarkably similar itineraries. What many travelers discover is that they are not the only people seeking the perfect Bali experience. For first-time visitors, this may not feel unusual because they have no earlier version of Bali against which to compare their experience. Returning travelers, however, often notice the difference immediately because they remember quieter roads, less crowded attractions, and a slower pace of tourism. Areas that once felt hidden have become widely known, while locations that were previously popular now sometimes struggle with the challenges created by their own success. The destination itself has not necessarily become worse, but it has undoubtedly become busier. This creates the first major shift in perspective. Many travelers eventually realize that Bali's challenges are often the direct result of its extraordinary popularity rather than evidence that the destination has somehow failed. Millions of people continue choosing Bali because it offers something they genuinely value. The irony is that the very success that attracts visitors can also diminish some of the qualities those visitors hope to experience. Transportation has become another topic that appears regularly in discussions about modern Bali. Many visitors arrive expecting relatively short travel times between beaches, restaurants, cultural attractions, and accommodation. Once on the island, however, they sometimes discover that moving between locations can take significantly longer than anticipated, particularly during busy periods. A short distance on a map does not always translate into a short journey on the ground. This can affect the overall travel experience in subtle ways because modern travelers often attempt to fit numerous activities into a limited number of vacation days. Long travel times between attractions can create frustration when carefully planned itineraries begin running behind schedule. Instead of feeling relaxed, some visitors find themselves spending more time in traffic than they expected. For travelers seeking a slower pace of life, this may not be a major issue, but others view it very differently. Pricing has also become part of the conversation. Bali still offers excellent value compared with many destinations in Australia, North America, and Western Europe, but some travelers are surprised to discover that parts of the island no longer match the ultra-cheap image that continues circulating online. Popular tourism areas often feature premium accommodation, luxury dining, and lifestyle experiences designed for international visitors with significant spending power. Expectations formed years ago do not always align with current realities. This does not mean Bali has become expensive everywhere because value remains available throughout much of the island. The issue is often one of perception rather than absolute cost. Travelers who arrive expecting prices from a decade ago may be surprised by what they encounter today, while first-time visitors often view the same prices very differently. The gap between expectation and reality can influence satisfaction as much as the actual amount being spent. The second major shift occurs when travelers begin comparing Bali not with its past but with its competition. Southeast Asia has changed dramatically over the past decade, with countries throughout the region investing heavily in tourism infrastructure, hospitality, transportation, and visitor experiences. Destinations that once received relatively little international attention are now attracting travelers who might previously have chosen Bali without hesitation. Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, and the Philippines are frequently mentioned in conversations about alternative destinations. Some travelers are drawn by the prospect of exploring somewhere new, while others are attracted by lower visitor density or different cultural experiences. The growing range of options means Bali is no longer competing only against itself. It is competing against an increasingly impressive collection of destinations throughout Asia. Another factor influencing travel decisions is the changing nature of tourism itself. Social media has transformed how people research destinations and what they expect to find when they arrive. Travelers often arrive with highly specific images in mind, hoping to recreate scenes they have seen online thousands of times. The problem is that real destinations rarely behave like carefully curated social media feeds. A beach may still be beautiful while also being crowded. A viewpoint may still be impressive while requiring a wait to access it. A famous cafe may still offer excellent food while attracting far more visitors than expected. These realities do not necessarily make the destination worse, but they can create disappointment when expectations become unrealistic. Bali often finds itself caught between reality and the idealized version that exists online. What surprises many observers is that some travelers avoiding Bali in 2026 are not rejecting the island entirely. Instead, they are changing how they experience it. Rather than focusing on heavily visited areas, they are exploring quieter regions, traveling during different seasons, or combining Bali with lesser-known destinations elsewhere in Indonesia. Their goal is not to avoid Bali itself but to avoid the version of Bali that has become most heavily promoted online. This leads to the third major shift in perspective. The most useful question is no longer whether Bali is worth visiting but rather which version of Bali a traveler hopes to find. The island offers luxury experiences, cultural experiences, wellness retreats, surfing adventures, family vacations, nightlife, digital nomad communities, and remote escapes. These experiences often exist simultaneously, yet they can feel completely different depending on where a traveler chooses to spend their time. Many experienced visitors argue that Bali remains one of the most rewarding destinations in Asia when approached with realistic expectations. The island continues offering extraordinary scenery, fascinating traditions, excellent food, and a cultural richness that attracts visitors from around the world. What has changed is not necessarily Bali itself but the level of planning required to experience the aspects of the island that align most closely with a traveler's goals. For some people, avoiding Bali in 2026 simply means seeking something different. They may be looking for fewer crowds, lower prices, shorter travel times, or destinations that feel less familiar than one of the world's most photographed islands. Their decision does not necessarily reflect a negative view of Bali. Instead, it reflects the growing diversity of options available to modern travelers. At the same time, millions of first-time visitors continue arriving and discovering why Bali became famous in the first place. They experience the landscapes, culture, hospitality, beaches, and atmosphere without comparing them to an earlier version of the island. For many of these travelers, Bali remains every bit as memorable as its reputation suggests. Their experiences help explain why the island continues attracting global attention year after year. That is why some travelers are avoiding Bali in 2026. Concerns about crowding, transportation, changing prices, heightened expectations, and growing competition from other destinations are all influencing travel decisions. Yet the story is far more complex than a simple decline in popularity because Bali remains one of the world's most sought-after destinations. The more interesting question may not be why some travelers are choosing alternatives, but why Bali continues attracting so many visitors despite the challenges that come with extraordinary success. And for travelers looking across Southeast Asia today, that question often leads directly to another destination that many believe is experiencing the kind of tourism growth and international attention that Bali itself experienced years ago, creating a fascinating comparison that may shape travel decisions throughout the rest of the decade.